All right, he goes, I've got to hold my hands up here personally. Like, this bloke should have been on the cast long ago. And actually, he sledged us about that very fact last year in Sydney, and rightly so. I'm talking about the bloke with 244 test wickets, 13 fifers, 178 ODI poles. But did he do it with the right body language? It's Western Suburbs, New South Wales, and Australian King of Wheels, husband of Elisa Healy, Mitch Starc. Mitch, welcome finally to the great cricketer.
Gentlemen, it's about time. Thanks for having me.
So you played your club cricket at Wests, Mitch, and I say that in past tense deliberately because obviously you'd be done with that now. It's the club of the late Phil Hughes, Michael Clarke, and of course Daniel Smith. I actually remember you bowling first change at age sort of 16 or 17. So 2 questions. Tell us about life at Pratton Park, what you learnt from the hard heads there, and did you have to work hard to finally usurp Matt Day and Grant Roden to open the bowling?
Well, I probably haven't played there for about 7 years, just purely through the schedule. But
schedule issues.
Yeah, schedule issues. Yeah.
During my time at West, I've heard so much about this ridge that they used to have at Pratton Park, and how it used to be a fast bowler's paradise because he used to hit the ridge and it'd be up around the nose of the batsman, and never seen it in my time, so Pratton Park's clearly changed.
So it's like Lords, except it's horizontal instead of vertical. You sort of use a slope at Lords, but use a ridge at Pratton.
Yeah.
Never seen it, but it's been a fun time at West with some strong names you mentioned there, and some big quicks that I had to push to the side to try and get to the front.
I want to know what Mitch Starc does during a global pandemic, which is a thing that I never thought I'd be saying. But how many overs are you watching of the Test series? Or has it just been a nice break generally to not be sledged by Warnie?
I've been watching the golf actually. Honestly, I'm not a big watcher of cricket these days. I've switched it over here and there to. Just to see how it's been progressing, but I certainly haven't stayed up late at night to watch it cricket. I've preferred watching the golf, and actually have a mate, an English mate over here who lives here in Scotland. Was up at the Hunter Valley the other weekend to play some golf, and we had a little weekend away, and he was obviously very fond of watching the cricket. So it was the first test, so we happily gave him stick for the winning inning. So that was a great weekend.
Just following up on that, Mitch, because we've got a lot of English fans who want to know what you think of the current side. I'm just looking for confirmation on this story. At the CA Awards a few years ago, a good friend of mine across from me, Ian Higgins, was sitting at the bar, slumped over a whiskey next to one of the Aussie quicks, won't say who, and they both look up at the screen and it's showing the England-West Indies test a couple of years back. Higo says, do you watch much of this, mate? And the quick replies, I haven't seen a ball. So just with that in mind, how are you assessing England's performance against the West Indies this time around, and how scared should we be of Ollie Pope next summer?
Well, I'll tell you what's hard to watch, watching that England top three. I mean, they only scored about 15 runs off 150 balls. So, that makes it hard to watch cricket. But I think everyone, on a serious note, Ben Stokes is a serious player with bat and ball. But, they've obviously started slowly in that series to go down in the first test. But they've found... I guess through their combination with their bowlers and Stuart Broad's obviously given them some stick for leaving them out of the first test. But it's I can't say too much. I haven't watched much of it, so sorry.
No, it's I've been watching Cameron Champ play 18 holes somewhere in Abu Dhabi or whatever. One thing that has been very entertaining for a lot of people worldwide has been Dave Warner's TikToks.
Yeah.
And I haven't seen any public commentary about that. I mean, there's got to be something going on in the WhatsApp groups. There's a couple of conversations, just checking in with Dave. Is there any chat about his TikToks?
I think for a little while at the start, there was a bit of stick thrown his way on a few of the group chats. And then I think obviously people caught on that he was getting paid some money for it. So people stopped paying attention to them, I think.
Right, fair play.
Yeah, fair enough. People have done that with us too. Just talk about contemporary stuff. I mean, it's many would have you as the premier short form bowler in world cricket. I certainly would, especially while you're on the cast. You famously you opted out of this year's IPL recently to spend more time with Elisa, which was very endearing. With respect to Elisa and all partners out there, including my own, like, would I be right in presuming that the lockdown has meant you've now definitely spent enough time with your partner and that the IPL is once again attractive, or alternatively Shield cricket at Drummoyne Oval?
I went okay at Drummoyne Oval, so maybe some Shield cricket. No, but it has been really nice. And selfishly, it's been really nice to have some time at home, and I think there's a few people who probably would agree that a bit of time to refresh the mind and the body has been fantastic, and now blokes are raring to go for cricket, but yeah, we have spent probably more time together in the last few months than we have in the last 10 years. So we're still married. We still haven't been pushed too hard yet, but I'm still getting beaten on the golf course.
And then, so like, if you have sort of had a good amount of time together, then you've just got that really tough question of like, oh, do I play in the IPL or do I play like Shield cricket at, Wollongong? What is just on just face value, like a lot of the media have been winding this up as like a really tough question for a lot of the quicks and a lot of the Australian cricketers. Like, just what's your gut say if you had to choose between the IPL and
the riches of the Sheffield Shield?
Yeah, batting second against Mitch Swepson at Wollongong.
Well, I don't have a contract, so I don't have to worry about it. But I guess if you're in Pat Cummins' shoes, $3 million sounds pretty good for a bit of T20 cricket. So I know where he's going.
Yeah, fair, yeah. Well, I mean, we sort of turn the minds to what's going to happen in the Australian season coming forward here, Mitch, and obviously India coming back and Pujara and Kohli and stuff, and we've obviously seen with the UK somewhere where they can't touch the ball with any saliva, and like that's the Duke, and the Duke's still swinging a little bit. How the fuck are we supposed to make the Kookaburra swing, on Adelaide or the MCG if we can't? Like, what's the secret? Is it back sweat? What's the thing?
What are we looking at?
Yeah, what are we looking at? How do we do that? How do we make it swing?
Well, I was hoping to get a few tips from you boys because we can't even use sweat at training these days. They stand both sweat and saliva from training at the moment for us. So it's going to be an interesting one. Maybe we have to play more ping-pong games, I guess. I don't know. But,
play at night.
Yeah, that Kookaburra, the red Kookaburra, does struggle without a bit of love. And I think even Jimmy Anderson came out during the week or maybe last week saying that, even the Duke ball struggled a little bit for that swing that he obviously relies on so much with his fantastic skills. So it's something that's going to have to continually adapt and addressed as we find a way through the pandemic. But at the moment, obviously, it is what it is, and then health and safety is at the forefront.
Obviously, with India coming out here, I'm just really interested to sort of get a gauge because, I mean, Pez and I have never been to India, so we don't know what that's like. But you've bowled to some of the greats, obviously the Indian players specifically. I'm talking Dhoni, Kohli, the likes of that. Yeah, what does it feel like? Not probably less so in Australia, but playing in India when a Kohli or a Dhoni comes to the crease. Does that make you, like, as a bowler, nervous when they're coming in? Is it like what's the feel in the stomach, in the heart when they're coming to the crease? Just the roar of the crowd, the energy. Like, I think we were talking to someone else recently who said, like, you can actually feel the weight of a country actually when they come to the crease. Now, playing third grade at Pratton Park, I wouldn't know what that feels like. But what is that like when Kohli comes to the crease, for instance, or a Dhoni?
Maybe the best way I can describe it is, I remember my first test tour was actually to India, and I didn't play any of the two tests, but we were sitting there in the second test in Bangalore. It was, I think it was maybe myself and Phil Hughes and James Pattinson sitting there running drinks. And anyway, Sachin was playing and he'd scored some runs and he was getting close to 100, and all of a sudden Bangalore Stadium was full and loud as anything you'll ever experience in cricket. He got his 100, they all went nuts, and then they disappeared. And then he got close to 200, and they all came back, and it got louder. He got 200, it was loud again, and they all disappeared. So these days they obviously embrace cricket a bit more, and it's loud for a long time. But in terms of some of those big name players, it is extremely loud, and it is a bit like all of the country are there at the game watching and not cheering for you.
Yeah. Is that really intimidating? Is it an intimidating environment, or kind of like, oh, this is actually really cool?
I think a bit of both. I've been around long enough now not to be too drawn in by the crowd, but it still is amazing when you go to especially India and how loud it is for 20,000 screaming Indians in Bangalore is as loud as a full stadium in Australia sometimes. So it can take a moment just to get used to, but at the same time it adds to that atmosphere, which is fantastic for cricket.
Just on India, Mitch, like going through the media archives following the last India series, I've just noted like a concerted effort from the Quicks, like the Aussie Quicks, to highlight just how much they're dreading bowling to Cheteshwar Pujara. So, like, leaving aside the fact that Pujara is an absolute gun who we respect and is always welcome on this show, like, can you confirm this approach is part of an overarching dog whistle strategy to alpha Virat Kohli?
Yeah, I think that was led by Pat Cummins. He is the alpha of the bowling group at the moment, old Golden Balls. But but yeah, we spent a fair bit of time bowling to Pujara and Paddy at a few different stages through that series almost had to stick on Virat. So yeah, he's one who can, if the ball's not doing much and the wickets are flat, he can bat for a long time.
Mm-hmm. Which we saw this year. Yeah, we had that really important ODI series in South Africa, 3 months after the World Cup, which meant absolutely nothing. And was it the third ODI when you had the option to come back, to watch Lisa play in the World Cup final? I mean, how hard a decision was that to either play in that third meaningless ODI game in South Africa or come home and watch your wife, dominate a World Cup final from the, comfort of a press box or a hospitality box?
It was a very comfortable hospitality box, yeah. No, that unfortunately that was decided long before the series. So I was still coming back, even if it was 1-1 or 2-0. So I guess we can laugh about it now, and it was a dead rubber. But it was a bit of a nervous bus trip. Actually, it was a 5-hour bus trip to Potchefstroom, I think, where we were going for the last game, and that's actually more blokes than I've ever seen before on a cricket bus, watching how the Aussie girls perform at the World Cup, which is fantastic to see. So and if they won, I had to get in the car back to the airport the next day, and if not, I was going to play the third game. So as it turned out, it was great to get back and watch the girls win a World Cup final and to see nearly 90,000 people at the MCG. It's probably going to be the biggest sporting event in Australia, or the last big sporting event in Australia for a little while with what's going on. So it was a fantastic story in the end for the girls, and just glad to be there and be able to support the wife as well.
Mm-hmm. Mitch, feel free to dispute the premise of what I'm about to say, but as you know, last year there was a bit of a small media spot fire that broke out between yourself and the new head of performance / new Pat Howard, Drew Ginn. So as far as I could tell, the issue concerned training regimes for quick bowlers, where Ginn, who's like an ex-Olympic rower, started to say some rare stuff about training at 20%, then 80%, then building up, because that's what rowers did 15 years ago when we won gold a lot. They're my words. In response, you said, I just want to bowl fast, which is now literally the words on your wristband. Oh, yeah. Mitch, how do you deal with these non-cricket theories men with very rare ideas? And do you ever wonder whether there's any danger that the entirety of Gen X can get off your back for 2 seconds?
Are you trying to get me in trouble?
Yes.
No, look, very diplomatically, I can respect where he's coming from, but I didn't agree with what he was trying to get around us at that point in terms of the fast bowling. I'm not going to run into the nets and bowl 20% to Steve Smith, and neither of us going to get anything out of that session. So I think one of the best sessions we've ever had is where I tried to bowl 35 to 40 balls at his head for a session. Ooh, yeah. And had to be dragged out of the net. So, no, it's that competitive net session that we're after, and there's still an element there that you need to, personally, I feel you need to remind the body what bowling fast is like and how that hurts the body, and there's an adaptability there to that. So in that instance, I didn't agree with Drew.
When you're bowling to Steve Smith, I remember watching footage. Where was it? It might have been in England just before the Ashes last year. Yeah, I think it was. He just come back into the squad, and then you're bowling to him, and he's just talking the entire net session.
Yeah.
And like you bowl a ball, and he's like, you beat him, all ends up, and he's like, not much I can do about that one, my friend. Yeah. Just the weird, like, what's it like bowling to like the absolute, enigma?
A child in a man's body.
Yes.
It can be very funny at times. It can be very strange.
He's just endlessly talking, right?
Yeah, he can do that, yeah. And now Marnus, his little puppy dog, his little shadow, has followed him there. If you get both of them in the same net, it can be a very strange net. So you sometimes just sit back and laugh at them, but they're extremely talented players. Obviously, Steve's one of the best in the world has been for a long time, and Marnus is starting to follow him there. So, but that's the next sessions that you're after. Those hugely competitive, at times comical, at times very strange, but very competitive. And I think that's how we get the most out of ourselves at training as well, and hopefully getting to higher levels at game time as well.
Well, obviously that England series that's sort of slated for September, the ODI series, whatever. I mean, 2 weeks quarantine, 2 weeks hotel quarantine. Who are you inviting more, Marnus or Steve Smith, in a hotel quarantine for 2 weeks? There's a lot of shadow batting going on there.
Yeah, hopefully the other end of the hallway to Marnus, because you're hearing tapping the bat during the middle of the night. So does Steve Smith, but it sounds like we could be away from the IPL boys. It sounds like they're getting dropped off on the way back home. So it could be a smaller contingent in quarantine back home. But hopefully we've got some facilities there to quarantine in and train, and Marnus can do his batting in the nets and not in the hallway.
Well, we look forward to seeing how all that plays out. Mitch, thanks so much for chatting with us on the way home from training, from the COVID bubble boy training that you've been doing. And we definitely don't want to get you in trouble with questions that are just, indulgent questions that you've dealt with well anyway.
No problem. Thank you so much for having me. It's always a good laugh.